Hey guys, so today I'm chatting to Tim Conibear from Waves for Change. Tim and I go way back. He was starting off Waves for Change about 9 years ago, the same time I was starting at Bigger Than Me. We met in a little coffee shop in Muizenberg. And today I'm going to be chatting to him just about a little bit about what Waves for Change is doing, particularly around mental health for children and young people within the townships, and how they're using surfing to engage with young children, bring them out of their situations, giving them opportunities, and how important mental health is in terms of being able to be an active member of society and give yourself the best opportunity to thrive. So without further ado, I give you Tim Conibear. Tim, how are you, sir? Long time.
Yeah, long time. I'm on time. Years and years, but no, all good.
Yeah, I
All good.
remember
Yeah.
we basically touched base, I don't know, must have been about 9 years ago or something, and I think it was in a little coffee shop in Muizenberg, and you guys were just sort of starting off, and Bigger Than Me was kind of starting off, and yeah, and here we are, like sort of 9 years later, really, I guess, you know?
Yeah, geez, I'll have been almost in my 20s then. I just turned 40, so it seems like a long time ago.
Like a lifetime ago, eh? So
Yeah, literally.
obviously I would have introduced you a little bit before this, but I think it would be great just to give our listeners a little bit of a insight in terms of what it is Wave for Change does, and you know, why you kind of came up with the idea and the concept, and yeah, we'll just sort of take it from there.
I mean, broadly speaking, we work in youth mental health. So we were founded out, well, I mean, when we first met, it really was just a surf club that I used to run at Muizenberg Beach on the weekend.
Yeah.
And together with Apish Checha, and a friend of mine was a researcher, so did some research on why kids were coming to the beach and what the service was offering them. And basically we found that we were providing this safe space that young people didn't have, especially young people coming from kind of volatile backgrounds in South Africa, so by and large township environments. And when they came to the beach and they found this safe space, it helped them learn new skills to kind of cope with their problems, forge care attachments to adults, and this helped moderate the impact of a lot of the stress that they were going through. So, I mean, broadly speaking, we called it surf therapy. So the surfing component helped build the confidence of these young people. And then, you know, through these connections with Apish and myself, we were able to teach a few coping skills, help them deal with the challenges they were going through. And we realized that service in South Africa is massively under-resourced by the government. I think something like 1% of the national budget goes to youth health services. So we thought, well, there's this need in South Africa, and to be honest, internationally, for safe spaces where young people can go talk to people that they trust about their problems, but spaces that young people want to be part of. So we call ourselves a youth mental health organization, and it's using surfing to create these safe spaces for young people to address some of the challenges they're going through.
Yeah. And how have you seen, I mean, obviously mental health, there's quite a big spotlight on that at the moment, you know, and it has been over the last couple of years. But obviously, you know, when you guys initially started, this was something you just kind of fell into, really, noticing that this is what you were providing, aside from obviously surfing being the main thing to draw the kids in, right? So how have you seen that sort of shift over this time period from where we are now?
I mean, in the early days, it was totally, the program as it was totally unstructured. So like I said, it was me and Apish would just go down to the beach and we'd literally just go surfing. As we came to understand what parts of the day, because there was a day we'd go just to the beach, what parts of the day the young people valued, we then started amplifying that part of the program a little bit more. So the surfing was obviously a major reason that young people came. So we made sure that surfing was always a core focus.
Yeah.
But the opportunity to have conversations with adults about some of the challenges that they were going through was important. So we developed this kind of mentor-mentee relationship. As a Waves for Change coach, you look after a number of young people. You get what's called a caseload. So as a social worker would have a caseload of 20 kids. A Waves for Change now has a caseload and they have kind of an intentional focus to build relationships with these young people. And if they have challenges at home or challenges at school, they do home visits and school visits. And then the other part was helping young people understand some of the emotions they were feeling and develop coping strategies. So we used to teach really simple strength building exercises, some meditation exercises just to stay calm, strength recognition exercises, things that we draw from counseling programs that work with young people. And we used to just do those at the beach every now and again. And when the young people came to the program, they said, look, we really, these tools help us. So what we did is we wrote a whole curriculum of these activities that you can deliver at the beach. And it was those three things really that were integral or seemed to create the most value. Yeah. So, in the early days, like I said, it was this weekend program that would happen ad hoc. And we started realizing, well, the surfing, the adults, and this curriculum that we've developed is creating a safe space for young people. There are so many young people that need support across South Africa. So let's create a 1-year program that young people can come to. Let's work with all of the different community stakeholders that work with the most at-risk youth. So let's talk to Department of Education and identify people who are dropping out of school, or let's talk to the hospitals who are dealing with, who have outpatient programs. And let's connect all of those kids to the project. So yeah, what was initially a relatively unstructured surfing club became more of a structured mental health intervention. And if you're in a school of skills, or if you're in a school for young people with autism or other learning barriers, you get referred into Waves for Change as part of your school day. So you come to one morning session a week over the course of a year. If you're at a Quintile 1 school or in an outpatient program, you get referred into the program in the afternoon. And again, you do one session a week for a year. And then once you've done a year's worth of programming with us, you join a weekend surf club. And what the weekend surf club does is it just helps the kids learn sort of more advanced surfing skills, life-saving skills, connects them to other opportunities. So a lot of our surf club members today, they work at different surf schools across the country. Cinder, one of them, is now a kind of world SUP competitor. Yeah, it's been really cool. It's I guess we just took the active ingredients of that weekend surf program and we, for want of a better, institutionalized them so we could turn it into a quantifiable program. And that allowed us to work with a lot more children as well. Yeah, and then you're able to sort of measure the impact with that as well, right? So now, so you guys, you obviously started around Muizenberg and the Momwashi area, and then around the beach there, and then Khayelitsha and that. Have you guys, and I know you're looking with the Wave Alliance program, sort of different networks around the world with similar sort of goals. Explain to me a little bit about that and how that's kind of working. Yeah, I mean, so there's two big strands of the work today. The first one is just our work in South Africa. So we have a number of beach sites across the country now. We've got 3 in Cape Town, so on Hout Bay. We do that in partnership with the Central Ocean Alliance, run by Frank Solomon. We've got a program in Khayelitsha on the beach in Monwabisi. We've got another one at Muizenberg, another one in East London, another centre in PE. Those centres, as I say, they deliver the surf therapy program that I was just explaining, and they're linked in with a variety of different kind of schools, hospitals and things. So they work with about 2,000 young people a year. And what has happened over the last few years is a lot of different partners have come to us and said, how do you do Waves for Change? Like, how do we deliver a surf therapy program? And we thought, well, rather than opening Waves for Change sites all around the world, why don't we partner with people and teach them how to run an intervention? So that's the Wave Alliance. What the Wave Alliance does is it identifies youth organizations that are based on the beach in high risk coastal areas. And we get some funding to then train that organization, equip them and support them to run their own surf therapy program. And the whole thing happens, under their own brand and their own everything. So we've worked with 34 partners now in 18 countries over the last couple of years. Wow. That's amazing. And it's a kind of interesting model because the 5 sites that we run in South Africa, we need to resource, so we need to raise the money for them, and we're accountable for everything that happens there. With the Wave Alliance, we're supporting other organizations who are able to take the work forward under their own brand, and they cover all the expenses. We give them a little bit of financial support when we can. But the training that we give them, the impact measurement training we give them, it allows them to sustain their own projects onwardly. So after about a year's worth of training and support from us, they become fully independent of us. We retain really good relationships with them, and we have this network that that remains, in constant communication. But it's been a really interesting way to grow the work. Do lots of research, but through the Wave Alliance, it grows quite quickly.
Okay, and then how have you guys been managing? I know from our work with our clients and that kind of thing, COVID has obviously, helped. Well, in some respects, depending on what they do and whatever, it's they've actually been able to scale their work because it's amplified the need for what they do. So they've actually grown quite quickly as a result of that. Or the opposite has happened. They've really struggled to kind of make ends meet and that sort of thing. So how have you guys sort of found the last 18 months with that?
It's been interesting because like the work that we do in South Africa at the different sites, the whole thing hinges on human connection, and it's quite difficult to recreate that online. So we were, during the hard lockdowns and things, we opened WhatsApp support groups and we did online counseling and stuff. It was a way to get through, and we were able to keep the support going for the 2,000 odd young people that come to our programs. But it wasn't what the organization set up to do. So now that the programs are back and the schools are open, the beaches are open, the direct work that we're doing in South Africa is able to operate again. We've been quite lucky with the South African sites because our funders were great. They understood that South Africa didn't have a furlough scheme, and that the employers really are the security net for so many South Africans. So our funders allowed us to keep the surf therapy sites open, our team on payroll, and we tried to go as remote as possible. But to be honest, that was really difficult because the whole foundation of our work is human connection. The partnerships work's been kind of interesting because, as you say, like the concept of mental health all of a sudden. Before lockdown, we struggled a little bit to make a case for mental health being a priority in government spends and funder spends, that it was always seen as quite a soft outcome. Now all of a sudden the whole world's experienced what it feels like to be locked away from your family, your friends, not being able to exercise. You realize like it really doesn't feel good, and it changes the way that we think about ourselves or our general mood. So mental health has become a major talking point, and a lot of people have phoned us up and said, like, how do you do this? Like, how do you provide this program? So we've actually managed to gain lots of work on that side of the organization, which has brought new income into the organization. We've started doing some consulting work for organizations like UNICEF, for example, in Somalia. So it's been very, I guess it's accelerated the partnership side of things, and we've experimented how we can train people online, whereas we used to do a lot of work in person. So it's driven a little bit of innovation there. It's definitely expanded our partnerships work. The face-to-face work, like I said, in South Africa slowed down, but now that lockdown's easing, that's picking up again. So a bit of a curse and a bit of a blessing, I guess, in equal measure.
Yeah, it's definitely been that. I've sort of been, with a lot of our clients, once you dealing with the benefactors and the kids that go through your program, it's not necessarily obviously the child or whoever that or that learner or whatever it might be that goes through the program is directly benefiting from it, but there's a far wider reach that I would imagine happens within the community as well, where children and that kind of thing that are going through these different programs are realizing that there are opportunities at the end of the day. They are able to improve their situation, whether it's through music or whether it's through surfing or whatever it might be. Explain to me a little bit about that in terms of how you've seen, just in terms of opening the eyes in terms of possibilities and opportunities of, from being within a township environment to actually seen that I can actually bring myself out of this, and surfing has helped me see that as a potential way for me to get out. And
yeah, and I guess it starts with, again, it comes back to that mental health lens. And we've done quite a lot of research with organization, university in America called the New School, and we've been looking at how your physiology changes as a result of stress, and also as the amount of stress in your body kind of wanes. So what we found with kids when they come into the program, bearing in mind that a lot of the people we work with come from kind of home environments where there's lots of change the whole time, they're dealing with lots of stress, so they have an abnormal stress load. And we found that changes the way that your brain functions, essentially.
okay.
And you see difficulty processing information. You see changes to the way young people feel about themselves, and quite often that leads to difficulty imagining a future.
I was going to say sort of a very sort of myopic view on things, as opposed to being able to actually see yourself in the future, right?
Yeah, I mean, essentially, you're in a fight or flight mode, so everything's very short term. And what we need to do, and this is the idea of a counselling program, any kind of mental health intervention, is trying to help young people, or help people get to a stage where they can start to interact with the world around them in a slightly calmer way, and then they can start imagining what the future looks like. So what we found is, young people, when they come to the beach and they haven't had any kind of psychological support, social support, they're in this fight or flight mode. So it's very difficult for them to imagine anything else than what's right in front of them now. And then once you've gone through, typically after about 3 or 4 months of programming, once you've got to know new friends, and you've got to know coaches that really care about you, your confidence grows a bit because you've mastered surfing. And you've learned 1 or 2 kind of coping mechanisms. We see the stress signatures in young people's bodies change, and that allows them to start processing information differently. So then the idea of a future becomes easier to imagine. And there's so many opportunities that exist all around South Africa. That's when you see young people start to act on them. So that's kind of our goal, is to help young people settle. And then ideally just to introduce a few opportunities around the program. Here's a life-saving club, here's a surf school, here's an after-school reading club. There's so much that happens in South Africa. If you can just help young people get out of fight or flight mode, introduce them to these other opportunities, you do start to see big change happening. And they're cool, and that's kind of what we found through the partnerships work as well. Is it works equally if you have a surfing program, skateboarding. There's so many activities that help young people soothe, get out of this fight or flight mode, and that's kind of the trick. So I think that's kind of the main message that we always try and emphasize in the work. Is it's not always just about piling in with lots of resources and thinking that material things are going to make a difference. It's actually creating a safe space where young people, first of all, can just settle, and then after 3 or 4 months you start connecting them to opportunities. And it's when you feel able to function that you can then take up the opportunities that are presented to you.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a really great approach, because you're ultimately dealing with what the core root of the problem is, as opposed to just sort of putting a band-aid over it and hoping something happens along the way. But this is actually coming to the core, which is ultimately, like you've been saying, sort of mental health, and surfing just happens to as the vehicle to bring the kids in with the program, and then the mental health thing flows from there.
Yeah, and I think, and as I said, I think this is what lockdowns kind of helped us articulate. Is I think all of us experienced a lot of new emotions potentially through being shut in our homes and disconnected from everyone that we care about, and it definitely changes the way that you interact with the world around you, and trying to articulate that in a world where not everyone had that experience was quite difficult. But now that we've got this kind of common understanding that actually it really matters how I feel internally, it does make it a lot easier for us to talk about that kind of mental health lens. And if you can create these safe spaces, it then opens up a range of opportunities down the line. The first, the core, the primary need is to create this safe space for young people to start with. And surfing is a great way to do that. It's non-threatening, it's lots of fun. Skateboarding, climbing, yoga, all these different activities you can just you can use to create these spaces that people want to be part of. and then you can build, on top of that.
Cool. So if for example, some of our listeners and that kind of thing want to get involved with you guys and want to find out a little bit more about the program, like how do they get in touch? Obviously we'll send links to various social media channels and that kind of thing, but what is are there packages where funders can get involved, or different brands, for example? How does that normally work?
So the easiest way to get involved at the moment is we've got a campaign running on our website, and we worked out we work with 2,000 young people a year. So and these are young people that can't afford to pay for the service. We work with kids who are quite often from families that are living right on the breadline. They don't have health insurance. There's no one who's going to fund any of these kind of health interventions. So we need to provide everything for free. So we worked out we provide 72,000 free surf therapy lessons a year. And the easiest way for a brand to get involved, a fund to get involved, is just help us cover some of those costs. So what the campaign does at the moment is it gives a number to the average cost of a session, and you can sponsor a number of kids through the year. You can sponsor a number of sessions. You can even sponsor a whole site. That campaign's live on our website at the moment. So if you're a brand and you want to get involved, please jump on. We get lots of media exposure, and Renelle and Tanya, who do all of our kind of corporate events, they can actually give a number to the exposure that we get as well. Okay. There's also a competition on our website at the moment. If you're just an individual, you want to do a fundraiser for us, you can win a bunch of prizes as well. So if our top fundraisers, most creative fundraisers, there's things like I think there's like there's a mummy water hamper on there. I can see you've got a mummy water hat. There's some Finisterre goodies on there, which is a really cool surf brand from the UK. So if you want to run a fundraiser for us, raise a little bit of money through a bake sale or a run or something creative, you can also sign up on the website, and you can, most creative fundraiser, most money raised, you can win a bunch of prizes there as well. So all on wavesforchange.org or on our social media channels. Okay, man.
Tim, thanks so much for your time, man. I really appreciate it. I love what you guys have done for as long as we've met or known each other now. Hopefully this podcast just helps get the word out there a little bit more about the incredible organization that you've founded and started. Thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
No, thanks for getting in touch. Like I said, it's been so long. It feels like a lifetime ago that we actually met, and it's great to see.
You've become a father now as well, and
Yeah, 6 months in, still learning. Okay. Chucked in the deep end.
Yeah, well, you're always in the deep end, man. When it comes to that, but it's the best thing you'll ever do,
No, it's epic. It's definitely just changes everything. It's amazing. Yeah, I love it.
Absolutely, and you develop your own little surf pack at the same time as well. Cool, Tim. Thanks so much. Cheers, mate. I'm glad we managed to get this together in the end, and thanks so much. We'll chat soon.
Yeah, cheers.